Welcome to a galaxy far, far away. Here at the Cantina podcast, we provide top shelf service, including rumors, leaks, news, and reviews. Come in, order a Loman Ale, and remember, no droids allowed.
Hello everyone, welcome back to this week's episode of The Cantina with myself, Cam Clark, and as always, my co-host, Kyle Malone. How you doing, Kyle?
I'm alive. I'm back. What's up, guys?
I'm alive. We were not here last week. We were invaded and taken over by Mike, who took you on a sultry solo outing for the Cantina last week. But some information Mike provided to us is certainly going to be something we're going to be discussing this week, which he didn't have available to him last week, so we're going to get straight into this. As always, we're here to discuss whatever Star Wars we want to talk about on a week, or you want us to talk about on a weekly basis. This week we do have a little bit of sort of news and rumour that we can go over, so that's probably going to be our kind of major focus. As always, folks, if you're listening to this for the first time, the 10th time, the zillionth time, and you've heard everything, if there's anything you want Kel and I to discuss, bring up as a topic one week, please let us know. We'll talk about in the end about all the different ways you can contact us and let us know what kind of content you would like to see on this, because there won't always be news every week that we can talk about. But at the moment, there's so much Star Wars actually happening that there is a lot of news kicking about at the moment. So let's start at the start, Mr. Malone. And this is something that we have come up with ourselves here at LRM. Well, I'm going to say that
off the top of our minds.
Of course, yeah. But obviously what I mean is it's an original scoop from us. Although, as I'm going to talk about in a minute, I have heard something somewhere about this before that was a vague, source, and then when we found out about this from our source, it kind of made me think about that again, but for the life of me I find that no. Anyway, what we're talking about is that our source has said that although they don't know exactly which characters we're talking about, the Book of Boba Fett is going to feature some fan favourite bounty hunters who will be making an appearance on the Book of Boba Fett. Now, this is hardly, I wouldn't say surprising news. If you'd asked me, without hearing this, to guess whether that would be the case, I would have probably sided towards yes, because it just makes such a good opportunity in that show to do something like that. Right. However, what we don't know is by whose definition are we talking about fan favourite bounty hunters? Because your era's my era, Kyle. So when we think fan favourite bounty hunters, well, I do, and I'm sure you do as well, you think about the guys on the bridge of the Executor in The Empire Strikes Back. Just to run through who those were, we had Zuckuss and Forlom, who nobody appears to want back except me, by the way. We kind of tweeted something earlier on, and KRT replied to it, which I'll go on to in a little minute. Everybody was, I want to see this person, I want to see that person. I'm like, is there no love for Zuckuss and Forlom here, man?
I was going to say that I had always mess Zuckuss's name up. I keep trying to throw an R in there, either like before or after the U.
Zucka?
No matter what.
Oh no, that's the guy that owns Facebook. Yeah, well, I mean, they have as much chance as anybody else at this point, as far as I'm concerned, because as I said, our source was not given any names. They've been talking to someone who may be working more closely to that side of things, and they've said, there's going to be some bounty hunters showing up, but our source doesn't quite have the names of who those are going to be yet. Now, the other ones from the Executor...
Din Djarin, maybe?
I mean, it's possible. I don't know if we'd call him a fan favourite bounty hunter.
I think if it was... would.
Well, I know what you mean, but I think if it was Din Djarin's going to be in it, then, that would be a different story, wouldn't it? Do you know what I mean? It would be a different folk. That's not the way I read it, this story, anyway. It's not.
No.
But we could be wrong.
Potentially,
This is not something I don't think that our source has been quite directly involved in, but has heard some discussion around. It's not what they're working on themselves. So anyway, yeah, so Zuckuss and Forlorn nobody seems to want. We also had Dengar, we had Bosk, and of course we had Boba Fett himself and IG-88. Now, in terms of likelihood, if it was one of those we're talking about, the one I would put least likely would be IG-88 because we've had so much time already with IG-11. However, who knows? So that was my instinctual thought, but of course it depends on the era you're from. And fan favourite bounty hunters could also cover people that were in the Clone Wars, because there was a lot of bounty hunters in the Clone Wars. Now, I have watched the Clone Wars. I know you haven't watched it all, Kyle, so but certainly one of the kind of favourite bounty hunters from the Clone Wars was Cad Bane. So after we had posted what we had heard, the guys over at KRT then kind of made a couple of hints that they might have that Cad Bane's name could be something that could be shown up as well. Now, you know, that's their own scoop, if that's the case, or maybe they do, I don't know, maybe they just don't feel confident to come out and say, yeah, we've heard that, but
maybe they just saw a pot and decided to stir it.
Or maybe they did. Maybe that was just, you know, Corey saying, you know, I want Cad Bane to come back. Please, Cad Bane, come back. Actually, I don't think that is the case, but I don't know, because, you know, that's not something that we've kind of directly communicated with those guys about yet. So their kind of interpretation that might be slightly different for us, and I don't want to speak for someone, but they certainly put some hints online which have got the buzz going that, hey, Cad Bane could be coming back, and maybe that is the case. I don't know. It could also be Dengar, it could be Zuckuss, it could be Forlorn, and there's some other potentially fan favourite bounty hunters that could appear from the likes of the Clone Wars as well in that series.
Aura Singh isn't dead by this point yet, is she?
Who? Aura Singh? No. Now you're asking a question, because she was very early in the Clone Wars. She was involved with young Boba for a while. But then there was Cad Bane was involved in that as well. And there was a story arc supposed to come in the Clone Wars where Boba Fett would kill Cad Bane, right?
Yeah.
And that was part of, you know, his coming out from under him and taking over kind of story that they planned. They never put that into any of the Clone Wars. And I just have a sneaky suspicion, since this is Filoni, obviously, whether they could maybe be adapting some of that, almost like in a flashback form, showing you
maybe, yeah. Singh
Boba's
died
past a little bit. I mean, it's called The Book of Boba Fett, so
yeah, that's how you and I have approached that title from like the get-go.
This week in Boba Fett's life, it seems to me more what's been happening with Boba Fett up to this point, and might even go, I'm not saying it will, we don't know this, I'm just saying it might even go pre-Return of the Jedi, you know, and then we could go back to what happened between him and Cad Bane, potentially.
Exactly.
You know? But I will say someone else as well, or more than one.
Singh died sometime between 21 and 10 BBY. So
yeah, so she's dead basically then.
Yeah, she's dead.
But again, she could appear
in a past thing. Yeah.
Two seconds. That was me just living a little bit of pause to make it easier. I was just speaking to my son there who just come in. And I did tell you to come back before this, but go for a shower, please. I tried to phone you, but you weren't. I couldn't get you. Okay. Alright. Alright, so, you know, so possibly, you know, she's one that could theoretically show up, depending on if they do go down a kind of flashback route or something like that. But we really don't know. All we know is that I think Boba Fett will not be the only famous bounty hunter that is in the Book of Boba Fett. You can let the speculation run wild there for yourselves, fans. Kyle, who would you want to see in it? That's a better question rather than who do we think, because I don't think we know.
I like the idea of flashbacks. Because I don't necessarily need to see that Dengar or Zuckuss or Forlorn, any of them are necessarily still kicking around, 5-6 ABY, or excuse me, 5-6 after Endor, which would be 10, 11 ABY, and so I'm with you. Let's go with the oddities. Let's go with the ones people keep messing names up of. Let's bring in Zuckuss and Forlong. I mean that all in all seriousness, because look at the surprise they gave us with IG-11, later just IG Unit. Look at the surprise they gave us with the type of character development.
Yeah, and you're an EU fan, right? So bigger EU fan than I am. But one of my favourite books from the EU was like Tales of the Bounty Hunters, which we talked about. Where you found out about Boba getting out the Sarlacc and all that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but did Dengar not help get him back on his feet again at that point?
I believe so.
I believe he did. So that makes me think, even though I don't know if it's official or canon, but it's just pretend that Dengar was in, supposedly in Rise of the Skywalker as well. Do you know that? There's a scene and it's supposed to be a mechanised, upgraded version of Dengar. It's just blink and you'll miss it in there for no reason, and it's just shit like everything else in that movie. But I don't know if they're establishing that or not, but I doubt it. Here's what I heard, right? Before I had heard from our source about this. This is what I'd heard, and I'd read this somewhere, like, and we're talking like a 4chan leak or something like that. Something that people go, hey, this is interesting, but we have no idea whether to believe it. Now, the problem with 4chan is you will get genuine leaks on there, but there's two things. One, it will be mixed in a river of shit, and two, the place is the most toxic environment you will find online. It is not a nice place to be. So it's not somewhere I frequent, but occasionally when other people who do frequent that place find something that they think, hey, this may not be true, but it's an interesting idea, and I look at it, and occasionally I think I have a feeling for it. I spot the odd thing in 4chan and I just go sort of, that's shit, and then I go, I have a funny feeling that could be genuine, and I've been successful with that once or twice before, and certainly it's a fact that plot lines for a lot of the big shows, a lot of spoilers for movies do appear on here. Anyway, what I saw was something that said that Bosk, instead of Dengar this time, was responsible for helping rescue Boba Fett from the Sarlacc, and that Bosk was quite heavily involved in the book of Boba Fett. Now, we didn't cover it because it's almost not worth covering it. And then 2-3 days later, our source comes to us with this information. Obviously, we spoke to them, and this is what they had heard recently, and it that's what just stuck in the back of my head to make me think, I wonder if that is genuine. Do you know what I mean? But again, that could be complete garbage. Somebody just made it up, fired it in 4chan for a laugh. So we're not saying that is the case, but just something in the back of my head says that I have a sneaky suspicion. I'll just put it this way: I wouldn't be surprised if Bosk actually showed up. That's nothing from our source. Let me just point that out. Absolutely not. This is not scoopage information at all. The scoop is there'll be well-known bounty hunters. That's all we know. It's just something I've seen elsewhere, and I've got a funny feeling it might stick. So we can come back to this next year when the book of Boba Fett is out and see if that was something. And that's the way it is with 4chan leaks. You don't know till the film comes out sometimes whether they're true, and then you can go back and say, oh look, that one was right and this one was right, but for every one that was right, you'll find 13, 14 that are absolute garbage. So, it just makes it an unreliable place. But so because it is totally anonymous, people do post content on there, probably just for a laugh, because they know no one will know whether to believe this or not. So I'm just going to put the entire plot of this online,
Right.
And it might be as well for the way studios do things to gauge people's reactions to content as well. You just don't know. Because there's so much fake content on there that no one would kind of take it seriously, but who knows? That's the only things we've heard so far, and the only other clue we've got is KRT's sort of little hint as to say, could Cad Bane be coming, which again maybe something that they've heard. Maybe they'll clarify that in one of their next videos. Although I do know that Mike was on their latest video this week, so I don't know whether they maybe talk about that. Again, I wasn't on it. Mike was, so you'll see that when it comes out as well. Mike, who works for us, obviously LRM, so he did appear. I had a chat with him. So
nice.
Anyway, so shall we move on to something else that came?
I do want to say this about the what is canon for Fett versus the legends and whatnot. After Geonosis, Boba was eventually imprisoned for trying to assassinate Windu. Served his full time and then took up the bounty hunting with Bosk, Dengar, and Asajj Ventress. Yep. You know about the stuff in the Clone Wars, and literally it's only what we've seen on screen, ladies and gentlemen. They have not added a single whole sentence to his story. He between the Sarlacc pit and Mando season 2. Like, there's not a single sentence uttered anywhere giving any idea of what story they could tell in an episode, in chapter
there's
one
lots
of the Book of Boba Fett, his escape or whatever,
There's lots of little setups and things that they could do. That's why I like the idea of a flashback show. Again, we don't know if it is. This is just Kel and I saying what we would like to see. Because
it makes sense.
I think there's a lot of little mysteries that you could explore of how did Boba Fett get from where he is to now, and there's a lot of cool stuff you could play with that and showing him in different periods of his life and why he's the way he is now. When we kind of get back to the present again, especially if he is going to be a player going forward in the hashtags Mandoverse that's being sort of created at the moment on Disney Plus, which seems to be the case as far as we're concerned. That seems to be the case.
Let me ask you this: after seeing him do some very honorable things, Will you be disappointed to see him doing dishonorable things, or are you thinking he's going to be, if we go down the obvious line of thought, which is him taking over some aspect of criminal underground, do you see him being more like the old mafiosos, the old Italian mobster type,
something where there's a bit more honor and code to it, but at the end of the day they're still criminals, and at the end of the day they're out for themselves. But I don't want to see Boba Fett turn into a hero anyway. We've talked about this before. I don't even think Boba Fett's an anti-hero, do you know what I mean? Because he's in villainous roles as well. He's completely neutral as a character. He's out to do a job, do what's best for him. He has some sort of code, we maybe will get to explore that more freely to understand why he was more loyal in that situation to Din and helping him get the child back, etc. But I think that's a payment that's been paid in his mind now, so he's going off to do things for himself. And I just think he's going to, I think he could be a potential antagonist against Din Djarin, but further down the line, like maybe someone who they have a fallout further down the line, they have a disagreement about something and things go square between them. But
I would rather...
I wouldn't see that anytime soon.
Yeah, I I wouldn't mind them being foils to each other by happenstance, if you will. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just
in
not
the same way
not that they're ever
Jabba's
gunning.
not an enemy of Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
It's just their paths collided through. Basically, you know, I mean, Jabba, going by the code that criminals follow, Jabba was really quite within his rights to set the bounty up for Solo and everything like that. He owed him money, he never paid him. Morally, that's wrong, but, you know, that's, if we're talking gangsters, that's the world they live in. So I'd be okay with Boba becoming almost a Jabba-type criminal mastermind, running a new sort of criminal organisation at that time.
Yeah.
Maybe even
I just
as
want
a
him to
background character or appearing, you know, like almost like that shady guy that, you know, that sometimes owes you a favour and sometimes you owe them a favour, you know. I could see that kind of type of situation coming up.
Right,
but
right.
with the potential for the relationship to fall apart further down the line and a confrontation to come between the two if their interests, if they're cross paths on an opposite sense. So that's the way I would see it with Boba Fett, and that's the kind of way I would do his character if it was up to me.
It would be having him become a even an outright antagonist versus a like passive antagonist or foil to Din. Having him do that is like real low on things I would like to see happen with the character, but it wouldn't be the worst thing to do with the character. I just like the fact that we can talk positive about Boba Fett for real. Like,
That's
like
right,
not.
yeah. He's proved he's a bit of a badass, and he's got something about him. There's a character there now, which there wasn't really before.
And I know people will point to the Clone War stuff. I got it. I haven't watched
live
all that,
action
but
wise,
we're talking live action wise. OT guys that literally were wondering why our friends were so obsessed with this guy that died in a comedic way. Yeah, he looked cool, but like
I think
Cam and I were even outsiders of our own groups.
Yeah, that's true. I think what happened is between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, so before he got into the Sarlacc, Boba Fett, where? Anyway, before that, I think it was the what could he be kind of thing, and I think they tried that in a weird way with Captain Phasma in the sequel trilogy, and it was just such a pointless additional character that just did nothing in any of those films. You know, I like Gwendolyn Christie. I think she's a good actress. They gave her nothing to do in those films except act like an asshole. You know, it was basically be an asshole and do your worst. We're literally not even giving you any decent lines here, so we don't care if you act well. And it almost feels like that in her performance as well, because she doesn't have to try because there's nothing to try with, you know. And that felt prequel to me, you know. Do you know what I mean by that? Like sometimes when a character just shows up and they're there to serve the plot in the prequels, but the actor comes
like
in, phones it in, and goes back out again, you know. But they you know, that was almost like Lucas just not trying. But I don't know what they were trying with her in the sequel trilogy. I mean, Last Jedi was the worst for her, 100%, but she wasn't good in The Force Awakens either. Do you know what I mean? I after The Force Awakens, I didn't think to myself, I hope I see Captain Phasma again in The Last Jedi.
God, you know? No, she
and then when I did, I
gives up the thing
in a funny
without
way
a fight.
Wanted to see her in The Rise of Skywalker, like just walk out of one of those Star Destroyers at the end of it and go, FN2, that was our final confrontation. It just appears out of nowhere and fights Finn. Do you know what I mean? Just to show how fucking stupid that is, because that is basically what happens in The Last Jedi. So all you people out there are saying, Rian Johnson made this beautiful, complicated movie. Just watch the Captain Phasma scenes and you tell me that's quality writing from a visionary director, because I will tell you to fuck off. Quite frankly. Anyway, I'm not. You see, I'll get angry now. If I start talking about the sequel trilogy. Have to stop. Let's go on to positive things. Here's something positive. So the Book of Boba Fett obviously is an offshoot of the Mandalorian. We know that there's other Mandalorian era shows coming. We know about Ahsoka, we know about Rangers of the New Republic, and of course we've got Mandalorian itself, which will tie all these things together as well.
When does Mandalorian season 3 start filming?
Oh, that's April the 5th, Kyle.
Oh, that's right, because
they must have recast them.
They must have. Disney must have relented on the helmet, and he's gonna spend all his time helmetless. We will no longer see the helmet.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on. So KRT sort of did this just casual drop on the live stream kind of thing this week, earlier on this week, where they said, oh yeah, I mean, there's a Yoda and Grogu issue is definitely coming, it's being developed, but, and then they went on to kind of speculate on it, and I was like, whoa, where did that come from?
What?
So, it's not something we've heard yet, but, we do trust those guys because we do communicate from time to time, and we share what we kind of hear from each other to kind of try and balance off, but our own scripts are their own scripts, so their source is not our source, so we do hear different things, just sometimes they align. We've not heard anything about this yet, but I do trust the guys have heard something about this. I would guess this is something that's in very early development. I don't think, if we go back to a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about a rumour that Disney had already decided to recast Luke Skywalker, and it was Sebastian Stan, right? That rumour was out. I didn't buy that rumour.
We said it was a little too on the spot. Just
too soon after starting the reaction. What I do believe is that Disney has seen that reaction and seen what people are saying is, we want a Yoda. Sorry, Yoda, I don't mean to say that. We want a Luke and Grogu show, And I think they'd be crazy not to push ahead with that at this point. So if they are saying, right, let's actually develop this, what the KRT guys have said, they agree with us in terms of, you and I have said before, we think if they go forward with it, don't do it de-aging. It's the uncanny valley. It was fine for that one shot, but if you're going to go forward with Luke and use him, in a lead role in a show or a movie or something, I'm guessing a show, then you have to recast the character, and we just have to accept that. We can't have Mark Hamill jumping about. Acting like he's 35.
Right, you could do what they did with Ewan McGregor, because Lucas doesn't know his own fucking timeline. He didn't even understand how old Obi-Wan should look.
Yeah, Obi-Wan looks very old in A New Hope.
Exactly.
For what age he actually is, yeah.
But what they did, was with effects, practical and otherwise, was try to add elements of contours of Alec Guinness to Ewan McGregor. So yeah, you can do things like that.
Picking an actor and saying, you look at the most like Luke, so we'll give you the part. I mean, I don't think Sebastian Stan is a good choice to me, because he doesn't look exactly like Mark Hamill, but he looks enough like him. But then when you get the costume people involved, and the lighting people, and it's possible to create something which looks pretty good. And then as time goes on, we get used to seeing that face as being Luke, and nobody freaked out when they didn't bring Alec Guinness back from the fucking grave to and somehow clone him to be younger, to play him, and that was never a question. It's impossible to go back the way. This is the same situation. Mark Hamill is too old now. He was the perfect age to play Luke in the sequel trilogy. That's done badly, but done. So if we want to see more Luke Skywalker, who is now dead, we have to go back the way. And Mark Hamill, actors can't just go back the way. We can do de-aging a little bit, but to lead a series, no. So for me, you and I said there was two choices: either recast for live action or go animated, because Hamill can still do the voice. And I don't disagree with that. And the KRT guys, they basically said the same as us. I think same reasoning, that they think if this is moving ahead, which is what they've heard, that that they have to recast Luke Skywalker. Anything to add to that at the moment, other than what we've already said, Kale?
I point back to a couple things. Right after or during our season 2 finale review on Mando, you and I discussed a Jedi Academy show, and we said, if they're going to do something like that, they have to recast, or you discussed the potential for animation, good animation with Hamill doing the voice work, which I would I'd be up for that, support 100%.
I would still support that, yeah. Because I prefer live action over animated. I get that, but we're in a unique situation here. Do you know what I mean? We can't have our cake and eat it, is what I'm trying to say. So we have to make some compromises, and I am prepared to make either of those compromises. Of course, if they recast Luke, I would judge the actor on how well he does in the part. If I don't like him in the part, I'll say I don't like him as Luke Skywalker. But Luke's not the hardest part in the world to take over. I think Han Solo was a far more difficult task for Alden Ehrenreich than Luke would be, because the point where Luke is in his development at this point is very stoic, ethereal, considered, polite, patient. Do you know what I mean? All these kind of things. Now you would have to give him some character development, give him some issues throughout a show or something, but that would be new. And it would give a new actor an opportunity to kind of take the character in another direction. But just like you say, animated, I would absolutely compromise with that as well, because
I think the
limited.
key is that it has to be a beginning of an academy, and the reason why I say that, and I don't want it to be Grogu and Luke on the search for more students
out in the stars.
Yeah,
they're
exactly.
Flying about. It's a comedy show. It's like The Odd Couple.
Looking for high end counts. I don't want that because we already got Road Trip with Grogu in Mando. So if they are going to do something, I definitely want it to be an academy of some sort.
And be able to bring in other characters, Luke,
including
and
Ben,
and bringing people in, and maybe even getting to Ben at some point. Yeah, and obviously the fact that it would be a child to begin with, they could absolutely recast the role of Ben Solo as well, and maybe we actually find out what was so dark about this kid to begin with. Do you know what I mean? Because I still don't know what the big fuss was about what was going on with Ben Solo. Was he any more tempted by the dark side than what Luke himself was, or what his dad was?
Oh, but it was all Snoke's fault, and there's nothing left in him. I feel it, but you can reach him because you're his dad. But he killed you. There's nothing he can do. But I'm gonna say his name, and then his dad's gonna fuck that goddamn garbage.
The idea was it's supposed to, Han is supposed to, it's him in his own madness, if you like, coming to terms with his dark side. But,
I already told you.
You would have had to build that in. You would have had to build that in and show that he was so mad he was seeing voices, and you didn't know whether they were real or bad.
It legitimately,
not should have been Anakin or something like that. That would have been the point to bring Hayden Christensen back, by the way. That would have been That would have been the point to bring Hayden Christensen back, his own grandfather, who went through exactly the same thing, and told him it's still at any point you have the choice whether to keep doing this or to start doing something else. So make your choice, you know. And he throws away the lightsaber and he makes his choice, you know. Yeah. And then it would have been more like his own grandfather's sacrifice, which he made his own choice to save Luke at the cost of his own life. Do you know what I mean?
Right. And that could have been when that was when he was rumored to be in Rise of Skywalker, which he was for a voice, but that would have been a good use. But like I said, is he should have started going through Force visions, like in his own mind.
See, one of the things I love about
allowing
The Last Jedi
to see part of it, and in it should have been a recreation of that scene with Han from Force Awakens.
From the Force Awakens.
Line for line, scene for scene, but instead of Kylo not letting Han take it, he lets Han take it, and then Han throws it, but the screen shows us as the hand with one of those famous Star Wars swipes, showing us this is all in his mind and part of his journey through the Force and his the Force interacting with him. It's his hand throwing his lightsaber away. That would have been a million fucking times better.
I like the idea of him being a bit mental and seeing stuff, because his mind's basically breaking
that too,
at that point.
Anything besides what we saw, which just didn't make fucking sense.
Exactly. Exactly. I just, I have no words for that. But, hopefully what we're going to find is maybe there's an opportunity for us to explore some of that, like I'm going mad Ben Solo in a some sort of Luke series going forward, and
that was
show why Luke suddenly starts to change what he thinks about him and starts to doubt himself when he has failure after failure with Ben, show us that path. But they would have to stop it before it goes kind of maybe too close to the real thing, because that's, that seems like another 10 years ahead of that again, at least 20 years ahead of that again. So, I don't necessarily, I would like enough to show us that they're, filling in all the gaps there. That's all I'm saying.
Here's something
lead it into an animated show where you get actually Hamill and Driver back to do the voices, going into an animated show. Do you know what I mean? Because you can't quite, do what live action at that point, because I think recasting Ben Solo as an adult at this moment in time would be ludicrous.
What I was gonna say is there's something I wanted to bring up last week, but I had gotten sick, and I think it's important because I'm sitting here looking at the Star Wars fandom page, and it's High Republic artwork on the sides, and
they had the High Republic show, didn't they?
Besides that, I don't care about the fucking animated High Republic show. It's probably gonna suck because it was
like a show about the High Republic and all the stuff they're doing and everything like that. It wasn't, an actual High Republic animated show. I don't know. Like that. I haven't watched it myself yet. Sorry.
What I do know is that it's apparently Yoda's fault that the Jedi Order stopped allowing relationships and his stoicism. It's apparently Yoda's fault. It's what?
Just so I'm saying that so it was Yoda that basically introduced that dogma into it. Is that what you're saying?
Or reintroduced it? Because the Grandmaster before him was a lot more lenient and progressive, if you will. And apparently Yoda is a step back, and Yoda is at
so this is
reason
like popes
why
kind of thing. So it's like where you have a progressive pope, and then the next one's a less progressive pope, and things go back the way. But the less progressive pope was a guy who lives for 900 years, so was there for absolutely years afterwards.
It's exactly why I didn't want the High Republic once I found out it was just a couple hundred years before Sidious, because I was like, Yoda's there. I don't want Yoda there. I don't want jack shit to do with Yoda, because now they're contradicting themselves even more, because all of a sudden Yoda learns that he was wrong the whole time after he dies, and only after watching Luke fail again does Yoda decide to come and correct Luke.
No, that's not true, because Luke doesn't really follow the teachings of Yoda's trying to teach Luke not to get rid of all attachments, but to learn that sometimes you can't react to everything. So I believe that the OT Yoda, who's learned more from Qui-Gon and everything, I always thought that what they should have explored more is the relationship with Force Ghosts, because every Force Ghost that appears to Luke is somebody who has an attachment to him, or he has an attachment to them. I never thought that was a coincidence. Do you know what I mean? So I would have liked them to kind of, and we've talked about this before, explore. That's all the way I saw it, that, you know, by being completely detached from everyone, you've nothing to come back for, kind of thing. You lose that connection with the world that goes on, whereas family and people you genuinely care about is what anchors you into the kind of real world, if you like.
Yoda hadn't learned that lesson even by the end of Jedi. Remember, in Empire, he tells Luke, "No,
that's what I'm saying.
You're not allowed to leave."
I'm agreeing with you.
Oh, okay, yeah. So it's, and then so they got that,
teach Luke to,
but they contradict it in 8. And make him say, "Oh, I failure's like the greatest lesson." And it's like, when did you learn that, Yoda? And all of a sudden, he's the whole reason Sidious is able to rise, and the High Republic shit sucks. You know, I'm just saying.
Okay, I maybe disagree with you slightly. That's not the way I saw what Yoda's saying. Like, hey, everyone, I thought you was wrong before. I think what Yoda was saying in episode 8 was that Luke had begun to go down a different path to the one Yoda had actually set him on himself, which was just to pass on what you've learned. Do you know what I mean? Ultimately, you can't control everything. You can't make the Force bend to your will. People are gonna go, and when a threat rises, you have to deal with it the best you can. But if you can't, then you'll have trained another generation that
That's
can.
That's a lot of projection onto a short sentence.
I know, but that it's just the way I kind of read it, you know, and that it's okay that you failed, but you're still here and you've still got a chance to do something. I quite like the Yoda scene in that movie, and I didn't think it necessarily contradicted things. And if you follow the Clone Wars arcs for Yoda and everything like that, I think Yoda is, I wouldn't say there's anything that says he was the one that caused or pushed the Jedi down that path. There was nothing in it to suggest that, but it certainly suggests that he was the one that learned to push another way instead, and that's the way he trained Luke, to me. However, do I like the idea that Yoda was the one that kind of introduced the more restrictive measures? No, I don't. It's not because it's not anything like, I don't want Yoda to be wrong. I'm fine with Yoda making errors and then learning from them when he's older. It's not really that. I think it's just that I like the idea better that the Jedi were on this wrong path for a lot longer time than Yoda, and that he himself was taught the wrong thing, you know what I mean, and just passed that on and so on, so that it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, you know. And that's what happens with very strict religions, you know. It gets passed on from generation to generation, and suddenly to think differently is now inconceivable because it's worked for every generation before, and if it was good enough for them, it's good enough for you, kind of thing. You know, don't stray away from the pack. And I always think that's a more interesting allegory, if you like, for how religion works, and ultimately the Jedi is a religion, despite it not being one that requires faith, because they don't need faith because they know for a fact the Force is real. But still, you know, to me it was like being that dogmatic was in a way playing into the dark side itself, because it was fear. Because you're frightened to put yourself or put others that you're teaching in a situation where they could be tempted. So instead, it's like getting a kid, and instead of letting them experience in the world for themselves, you want to wrap them up in cotton wool, you know, and you can't do that with a child. You can't say to a child, I don't want anything bad to ever happen to you, because then, you know, they'll still be living when they're 40 and they won't have developed any social skills. And I kind of feel like the Jedi are like that. They've just, you know, been brainwashed for so many years into believing this is the right way. It takes dramatic events to shake the way they thought, basically almost getting wiped out and defeated by the Sith. That's a much nicer story to me, and it works at the moment for my headcanon. So I do fear them playing with that too much in the High Republic, but it's more, for me, it's more just, I don't think it needs to be Yoda. I think that's just a way to try and make him more interesting, or to try and give him something to do. I would have rather saw the Jedi in that era already kind of following those rigid rules myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really makes it seem like it's political, and I'll just let people go research what's going on in the High Republic. Make your own judgments. I disagree with one of our own here at LRM. I'm a believer in the rift at Lucasfilm, not necessarily as deep or as I don't want to say violent, like physically violent, but, you know, word or mental or whatever, you know, business violent split at Lucasfilm between the one group of fans and Favreau side of things, even though we know Favreau and Filoni are very kind and work with Kennedy and yada, yada, yada. You and I both think there's a good potential Kennedy's gonna stay on, but I do believe that rift is there, and I think it plays into the difference, because you look at what Filoni and Favreau are doing, and you have diverse casts, you have great powerful female leads and secondaries. You have all this great stuff naturally coming, and everybody is loving it. Just about. Only a few people have made vocal complaints about the nostalgia stuff from Mando, but then you have over there on the High Republic side where it's all political and all modern Western politics.
Do you really think? Well, here's the two things I'll say. One, I think we have to be very careful here. This is a very dangerous kind of situation where what you do, and I'm not saying you necessarily do this, but I think some fans do this, whereas they see all this about Kennedy and they paint her as the bad guy, so you start putting her into positions. So when you don't like something, you say that was Kennedy, and when you do like it because you can't give her credit, you say that was Favreau. And this is what the really bad, I'm not even going to call them leakers, just the fake assholes out there that stir this stuff up. They capitalise on that. I'm not saying you're on that level, but I think there is no evidence to back that up. There really isn't any evidence to back that up for me, and we just don't know that is the case. You can look at something and see a pattern sometimes because you want to fit it. Now, was I pissed off at Kathleen Kennedy this time last year? Was it this time? Well, around about this time last year, because it was the Christmas before that Rise of Skywalker had come out. So was I pissed off and wanted and ready at that point? Absolutely, because since she took over, we got 5 movies, and I only liked 2 of them, and one, I kind of thought was a bit of a copy job, but I liked it anyway because it had some good moments in it. So out of that, I kind of liked one movie, really thought it was a good movie, and it wasn't even that good a movie. It was just Rogue One, and it was like a little story about what happened before Star Wars. So I wasn't impressed at that point, but I think, all I would say is, at the moment, I am more impressed by what they're doing from Star Wars, but I'm not going to say every time they do something good that it's not horror, every time we do something bad it is horror. So I don't think that's fair.
And I'm not saying, that's why I said it, I'm not calling it, I believe there is this rift, but not like the others are saying. I can't get the word, that's why I said violent. And what I think
can be repaired. That's what I'm trying to say as well. So you could have who's to say there hasn't been disagreements about where things have run in, and maybe Kathleen Kennedy has learned some lessons and decided to trust our more creative people more, which is good leadership and learning from your mistakes.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? That's there maybe was a rift, but it's now been healed. So I don't know if we can say what shows us there's a rift.
What I'm getting at is that there are certain things that she herself promotes more than others within the universe, and we know her direct involvement in 7 and 8. We can make some other things for 9, but everyone knows that there were discussions of politics on set, behind the scenes, and everything like that. Again, putting modern Western politics ahead of the storytelling. That's where I make the connection that there's people there, not necessarily Kennedy, but people that may have come on with her or during her, shared her ideas.
I would say the most woke part of the sequel trilogy in terms of what felt to me like connecting to our world in a weird place was the Canto Bight stuff in Rian Johnson's. Now, we know for a fact that out of all 3 of those sequel trilogy movies, the one Kennedy had the least involvement with, really, she just picked the director and let him do what he want, was Rian Johnson's The Last Jedi. So if that's the most bit that people complain about, which in my experience is, and certainly was the bit I wasn't happy with the most, what other political things were really in, let's say, The Force Awakens, for example, because I wouldn't say there was much in that.
It depends on who you talk to, because you got people that are so obsessive that they were upset that we had a female lead, and they're stupid for that. Because that's not somebody being political. That's just somebody picking a character of which 50% of the world are female and saying, I want to do it in a female this time. That's actually one of the things I absolutely agree that they should have done in the sequel trilogy. I actually wanted to see Leia more as a kind of Jedi master or a really powerful person. So you and I both agree on that. And then you can
if people complain about that, though, then they're just morons, quite frankly, and their opinions. They're not going to be happy unless they get what they want. If they don't want it, I don't mind losing fans like that. If it was me, I don't think there's 60% of the population that go, God damn it, I want my Star Wars heroes to be men.
No.
I only want there to be
percentages
but this type of people in it, and I don't know. There's always going to be some idiots out there like that, but. Let's
that's what I'm saying. So it depends on you asked what's political in 7. You can have someone say something as far as that, or you can have someone point out the very real fact that we know that Finn is a stormtrooper, has been a stormtrooper for a while, and has just now, for the very, very first time ever, gotten some individuality and somehow is chivalrous, and then at the same time we have the chivalrous feminist person. Again, depends on who you ask. I'm just saying.
But that could be. You could say that's a bad storytelling choice because they took longer to develop.
Because
I think they
don't
explain
where his chivalry, why Finn does what he does. It fits her character. Yeah. She's already been a loner. She's already. Yeah. I don't need your help.
I would have liked
Finn. It did it again. It all depends on who you ask. But I think I can see Kennedy raise certain voices. Rian Johnson, for example, she sings his praises, sung his praises. You're right. She left him alone because she liked the dailies. She liked the script. Because she liked what he was doing.
The truth is,
I've seen
Rian
her
Johnson
raise.
Is a good filmmaker. I just don't think he was right for Star Wars.
Right.
So
I've seen her.
I like some of his other films. I just don't like his Star Wars film.
And again, I'm just pointing out that I've seen her raise certain projects' voices more than others, and to me, that doesn't necessarily. I'm not buying into that whole. I think she's gonna end up being rehired. I don't think there's a rift between Filoni and Favreau and her.
Sometimes,
to me, it's the fans and some of the secondaries, writers and illustrators, storyboard artists, things like that. Because look, here's the simple fact. There's a rift within the fans. Well, so if there's a rift within the fans, who works at Lucasfilm today? Fans.
No, well, that's true. I get that. But what you're talking about, the rift in the fans is the same rift that we've got at the moment in society. And that we could get into that all night, but it's the same rift that we have at the moment. We have a group of people that say, I want to live this certain way, and that doesn't include being respectful towards you, and I should be okay with that because I should get to live the way you want. And other people going, no, it's not okay for you to monopolise the world anymore. Do you know what I mean?
I think we're on two totally.
But we are. But you're talking about a microcosm here. It's the same kind of thing that you've got in the fan base. So you either have people who are, they don't want to see change. They want everything to remain exactly the way it is before. Or you see people that are more progressive, explore new things. If Kennedy is promoting, let's say, inclusivism and diversity, which so are Marvel, so are every other studio out there that are doing it at the moment.
So did Favreau and Filoni.
In some ways they did. Yeah, why did they not? For a start, their lead actor's not a white man. He's Latin. They had some of the kind of major characters being female, rather than especially one of the kind of tough guy roles, which would be more kind of traditionally. That's not the way women would have been played. Females. I don't think there's really a lot they did, but there's not so much I can spot from other things either. Do you know what I mean? I think I look at a story, is it a good story, is it a bad story? Do you know what I mean? Sometimes they can put politics too much into projects, but apart from a few things in Star Wars, I don't think there was a massive amount. I think if we wouldn't have noticed so much if the quality had been good. I think what annoys us is we look at it as just one of a number of failings and a bad story or a bad project. Do you know what I mean? And that's just what the sequel trilogy was. It was it was a rushed piece of shit that nobody gave proper thought to, and they hired people to create this for them, and they hired the wrong people to do it. And chiefly I say J.J. Abrams on that front, But I have absolutely no issue at the time. But the fact that they said we want to go with a female lead this time, that was a smart choice. And nobody's ever going to be able to convince me that wasn't a smart choice.
And the majority, and that's one of the worst fucking things in existence is the idea that anyone that doesn't like the High Republic is automatically some sort of, right-wing nut extremist or something, or anyone that didn't like slobbering all over The Last Jedi is sexist or racist or thisist or that is
absolute garbage. Absolute garbage.
Because
but there will be people
you yourself
there that
hated
Episode
8, and you're further left than I am, and of course, I'm at the same point where you are on all the things where it's like, yeah, female characters, no duh, Hispanic lead, yeah, no duh, what, you got it. My thing is, again, I'll say this, and we can wrap it up with this. There's a thing in science fiction that has happened, and it's a success, okay? And it's called integration, and it's something that a lot of aspects of society are still really struggling with. But you can go back to the 90s, really, or 80s. With Star Trek Next Generation,
absolutely.
Getting into
Voyager.
things like Babylon 5, Farscape, even
stuff,
things.
Because these were visionary creators who went,
Stargate.
This is the future, and we're going
Doctor
there because
Who.
we're setting it in the future. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Continue on. Early 2000s. Doctor Who's reboot again. We have seen successful integration for almost 30, 40 years.
We weren't seeing it so much in the big Hollywood, though. Do you know what I mean?
No,
we
were.
We were seeing it, but not as much as you can still go back and look at the amount of content that was coming out. It was still very much. It almost felt like the 80s. There was still a lot of studios that were going out and still doing things a very specific way. When it came to the kind of mainstream, I think what happens is, there's other people that get pushed on TV more, and on, I'm not saying there was not any movies like that. Of course there was. I'm not being crazy here, but and that helps. You know what I mean, to kind of advance things along. But I still think it's okay that at the moment that's expanding again. At the moment, what does it matter? Do you know what I mean? Ultimately, I don't care what character I'm seeing on screen as long as it's a good story.
Finish my whole point of it. So,
okay.
The story of success. We've got this success. We've integrated one small aspect of pop culture. Science fiction has for almost 40 years across every medium of science fiction, from novels to the big screen, has had representation of every ethnicity, race, including aliens, and genders, orientations, you name it. Sci-fi pioneered it well before 2015.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, it became really important in 2015 to start patting ourselves on the back about doing things that were already done. Why? Because they realized that once you succeed, you can no longer use that topic to drive either narratives or other things that drive money to causes, people, yada 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 yada. It's a success story churned politically toxic, and God, it fucking sucks. But anyways, I'm done on it.
Yeah, I mean, I think, we don't feel like that. The majority of the fans don't feel like that. There is going to be people that feel like that about everything out there at the moment. And I think, these people are entitled to their views, but we're also entitled to say we don't care what they are, and not change what's happening to suit someone else. Do you know what I mean? Let's try a bit of something else, because for years Hollywood was so stale. They were saying they need to try some new ideas. Now I think that's more story wise than in terms of who you pick. But I certainly look, there's a lot of actors out there now that are some of my favourites that I think when I was a kid growing up they would never have got the big parts that they get just now. Do you know what I mean? So there is progress.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? There has been
Yeah.
progress, and there will always be progress. And sometimes there's just going to be these little blips that go a long way where you get people going against each other. And Star Wars is just such a fandom that, you know, everybody thinks it's theirs. That's the thing. Everybody thinks that's my thing. I'm Star Wars. Do you know what I mean? I've liked it longer than anybody else. But you know, there's people from every walk of life all over the world that were just as passionate as you about it, and maybe took different things from it as well. And we have to kind of accept that and understand it. All you can do as judges, when they bring out a show, a movie, whatever, did you like it? Yes or no? If you don't like it, that's up to you. You have every right to complain about why you didn't like it. But you know, I
should
it becomes a debate, but it should be a debate about the movie, not the politics.
Right. So exactly that's the whole point. Where I talked about patting themselves on the back. Filoni and Favreau haven't had to do that because their story stands and their character development stands and their casting stands as testament to their ability to write a great story, cast a great inclusive cast, and do everything right that they don't need to draw extra attention to it to get it noticed. It's already been noticed by people like me, you, and Brian, who go, yes, look, everyone's screaming, where's the diversity? It's here in science fiction, in Star Wars, and you guys are ignoring it. Why?
I mean, that's just one fandom, though. I think this does go across outside of Star Wars and goes elsewhere at the moment as well. Do you know what I mean? But within Star Wars itself, ultimately what it comes down to is, you know, did you like a movie or you didn't? So, as far as you and I are concerned, and let's face it, the entire staff of LRM, I mean, is there anyone that works for us who is an absolute loves all 3 episodes of the prequels? I mean, I don't think anybody liked the Rise of Skywalker, is there?
Oh, no, we got one. John Burns.
James. James, thank you. James like Rise of Skywalker? I wasn't sure about. I know he was a fan up to that point, and he likes the prequels. And
I know he likes the prequels.
Yeah, but I don't know if he liked the Rise of Skywalker. I'll need to ask him.
I don't know about that.
I shall ask him that. I'll just say we were discussing him, and we wondered if he was a fan of Rise of Skywalker. But he loves Star Wars anything. Do you know what I mean? He's just one of those guys.
I think he liked Resistance, which is good garbage.
You know, if you put Star Wars on it, he's in, basically. Star Wars or Indiana Jones. He's anything Lucasfilm. He's there with his hat on, man. But you know, I think when we look back at that, it's, you know, and we were, you know, sometimes you were accused of this, like, you know, so when Jama would say he liked The Last Jedi, he was accused of being a shell, he was accused of being, you know, I don't know, I'm not even going to bring up some of the stuff that people said about him. And then, you know, our site was suddenly, you know, all pro-Disney, and it was when we were getting political. And then I'd be writing an article on the same front page, absolutely slating the same movie, do you know what I mean? And giving a counterpoint of view. It's just personal opinions at the end of the day, and you're not going to get two people that always agree. I mean, there's Jammer and I and you kind of in the middle a little bit, debated The Last Jedi for 4 hours. Did we get anywhere? Did Jammer change his mind and say, you're right, Cam, actually this is a shit movie?
God, I could not. He wouldn't even budge on the like logical stuff.
Yeah, because
go listen to it.
As he explained, though, it didn't matter to him. What mattered to him was something different, and he got that from that movie, and it wasn't enough to turn us to his way of thinking either, because there was too many flaws for us. So it's just, it becomes a standoff. Do you know what I mean? At the end of the day, they're going to make more projects like that. Disney are never going to always please every fan all the time. All you can do to do that is just keep releasing the old trilogy, because that's what made us all fans in the first place. You know, that's the only thing we can all agree on. And even now you have a fan base that say, actually, now, you know, it's horrifying to even think this, but for us, but there's a fan base out there that some of them prefer the prequels to the actual old trilogy. You know, because it just looks too old and the special effects aren't good enough. It's not, you know, the action's not on the same scale as what they expect from a blockbuster film. And I can kind of, there's a part of me, well, you know, it horrifies me, can see the logic behind that as well. That's never going to change now. We're going to have these fans, you know, that are, you'll never, once they, as soon as they brought out the Phantom Menace and not every single person on the planet liked it, that was the fan base split at that point. And you'll never do anything to mend it. There will always be people will fall on one side or the other. It's a fact now, and we're never going to get away from that. So Disney can't produce something that just every single person like. There's people out there that don't like The Mandalorian. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Very few.
It seems as if most people do like The Mandalorian, but there are people out there that just can't go for it and don't like it, and, you know, for whatever reason, it's just not their thing. And that's fine.
I would just say
you
that
know, just watch what you like, and if you don't like it, you need to go and find something else. You know, and Star Wars isn't for you. I've been there.
Yeah, it does appear that Mando is widely loved.
It appears that way, yes.
And it's the first widely loved, visibly widely loved, meaning online, that the majority of talk is positive.
Yeah.
Since Rogue One.
Yeah.
Rogue One was the last time.
And even then, I would say Mando's been
positivity.
Mando has been viewed more positively than Rogue One was, because I think it wasn't a perfect movie. You know, a lot of the hardcore Star Wars fans liked it for it was, but then, you know, Jammer hated it because, you know, there was so many narrative problems in it, and the lead characters were so, you know, just there. They didn't do anything, you know, they didn't develop in many ways. And I get his criticisms of that, but at the same time, what I think is coolest space battle since Return of the Jedi. Some good just world building stuff going on as well. And director Krennic was absolutely amazing. So, you know what I mean? These are the things I see as positives from that film, and they outweigh the negatives. But you'll always have that conversation for every single thing. And the Mandalorian episode 6 kill, or sorry, just before we saw season 1 Mandalorian. After I just watched episode 5, hadn't seen episode 6 yet. I was ready to start tearing the Mandalorian to bits because it wasn't working for me. I had enjoyed the first couple of episodes, and then I thought it went right downhill, and I thought, this is not, I have no interest. I was bored watching those two, and we've talked about this in our Mandalorian shows as well. I just thought they were poorly written stories that just didn't need to be there. That didn't happen in season 2, and you know, so you know, that negative's gone now, because we had a great ending to The Mandalorian season 1. We had a great from start to finish season 2 this year. So, you know, I'm back on the positive train again. But, you know, if Mandalorian goes downhill, or Rangers of the New Republic comes out and I just think it's shit, I'm going to call it. I'm not one of those. I'm not going to blindly,
boy, because I don't give a shit about Clone Wars.
You know, I'm not going to blindly just say I like any Star Wars now. Do you know what I mean? So. But I'm also accepting that sometimes I'm going to be like, yeah, this is amazing, and sometimes I'm just not going to get it. And I think that's what's going to happen now. You know, whereas what you want is every single project to come out that you're going to love. I just don't think any of us are going to get that.
No.
You know.
Not anymore. It wasn't even like that with the EU. There were books that I would skip because they were just that bad.
You know, we've talked about this before, but obviously many podcasts about. But you know, when I read the Darksaber book by Kevin J. Anderson,
oh god,
it was like jumping the shark for me, and I just that was it. I was done. I literally closed that book. I never read another EU book after that.
Plans.
I never read another EU book after that because it just was so bad. It was like everything it felt to me like like what I would have written as a 14-year-old when I was at school and dreaming about what would happen next in Star Wars, which is great for a 14-year-old, but you know, once you mature you realise that's not good storytelling, you know. So what could happen next? Right, we'll get this. And that's what it just felt like, you know. And at that point I thought, no, this is gone for me now.
Yeah, I didn't like Darksaber. It was bad. It was bad. Anyways.
But anyway, so I think that's it. We could talk about Knights of the Old Republic. You've already talked about that in LRM mornings. Everybody knows about that now. We don't know anything about it. There's meant to be a Knights of the Old Republic game coming out. But until we hear more details, I don't think there's much we can really say about it anyway at the moment, other than that it seems to have got the fan base pretty excited. So that's it for us this week.
It started out as a High Republic game and it's being retooled older.
Yeah, again, I mean, we discussed this, and I'm not sure I get your logic on this.
A lot of the High Republic stuff was supposed to be D&D movie stuff.
That I agree with you on. That's where I think was I don't know if it was going to be the same stuff, but I think that's where they were going to go with their movies. And that's all.
I think they wanted to go older.
But I don't think that necessarily means anything to do with Knights of the Old Republic. I mean, just the brand name itself. You couldn't call it that. It would be Knights of the High Republic. You know, that's not the brand name that, you know, at the end of the day, one of your, you know, best hit, you know, read stories this week was just us revealing that, you know, the news that it was supposed to be coming back. And it just shows you what that brand name of Knights of the Old Republic still does to people. Calling it something else wouldn't have done that. So I just don't know. I don't.
You know what?
I don't like your theory, man.
It could still be set in the High Republic era.
It is possible.
Because they did make Battlefront and Battlefront 2, which they had already been titled before. So, Disney, you guys are crazy.
Oh well, so that's us for another week. Who knows what we'll be talking about next week, because we just don't know what news is going to hit, what things are going to come up, what we're going to be talking about. But you can find me at LRM_Cam if you're looking to get a hold of us on Twitter. As I said earlier on, please send us any suggestions you've got or anything that you want us to discuss, topics that you'd like to see us cover. Kel, where can people find you?
At that Kyle Malone on Twitter, and at that one, the number one, at that one Kyle Malone on Instagram. Yeah. And doing LR mornings every Monday through Friday.
Yeah. Great. Okie dokie. So thanks guys for listening, and see you next week on the Cantina. Bye.